So if Rosenbaum's chasing him, grabs the gun out of his hand, so now he has a gun, and he's pointing it at Kyle. Is Kyle then allowed to pull out a second gun and shoot him? Because now it's proportional. Like, I don't understand the.
And then when does it end? And then does he pull out a second gun and then he's got a squirrel with a knife? Like,
well, it ends presumably when Kyle shoots him and he dies. So.
Right. Well, presumably, unless he got that gun and then he had an even smaller gun inside of his dick, and then he pulled that out. Who knows, right? We'll never know. Crowd to wear it for the day. It's going to be fun.
It's funny. I totally forgot that happened until you brought it up. Is that why that you put that he was coming in the title?
No, I was hoping I could bait him into making a guest appearance. I've been trying to contact him for a while. I see. But yeah.
So let's give the backstory on that, just so people know who might not be familiar with it. We did a live stream with Sargon of Akkad. But I think we reacted to a video that you had done. We did kind of an EFAP with a video that you had done. Sargon threw out the F word randomly. We're on his channel, so there's really not much we can do about it. I'm not going to tell somebody.
Adam is trying to say that we are innocent. YouTube, do not blame us.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing: I am not one of the people who's on the side of I want to take people down. That's not my thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I debated Count Dankula not too long ago.
But you did clip out that.
I did. Oh yeah,
because you did post.
I did. I did post
Twitter,
it. I did.
Carlos Maza did retweet it, and Sargon's stream did get taken down. Sargon was nice enough to have us on his channel to promote our show. I think that video got close to 100,000 views. It was great promotion for us, but now it's gone from the internet.
You ruined our promotion. Oh my! Yeah, I forgot all this even happened.
I know. I totally forgot about all this. This is funny.
Anyway,
yeah, exactly.
Let's get into the topic at hand. Okay. So I watched your conversation with Destiny about Kyle Rittenhouse, and I thought it was very interesting. So I want to talk about that situation with you today. And I wanted to know, do you think that Kyle Rittenhouse shot those people in self-defense? And has your opinion on the incident changed at all since it first happened and now?
So I'll answer both those questions totally. And are we going to focus on that primarily? Just curious, like, what's the agenda?
Yeah, I would like to talk about the morality of that and, private property, when it's okay to self-defense, kill people, things of that nature.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, I just got the stream up. Wow, you've got me huge in the corner. This is going to be wild. So what do you want to start with? Was he morally justified?
Do you think that he was morally justified, and has your opinion on the incident changed at all?
Yeah, so as I've gone down this rabbit hole, which is not one I thought I'd be talking about, because this seems to be something that both sides are focusing a lot on, right? Like, are you guys? I mean, I'm not trying to push away from the question, but are you guys? Are you in the camp where you think that he was not only morally justified, but that he's a hero for doing so?
I don't know if I call him a hero, but I think he was morally justified and was acting in self-defense.
Okay. And Adam, same for you?
Well, I call him a hero for stepping up to defend people's private property from looters. Hell yeah. Like he basically put his life at risk to defend other people's property. I think that's pretty heroic.
Oh, wow. All right. So, yeah. Okay. So I don't think he was morally justified in killing those people. I also don't think you're morally justified in murdering someone for someone else's property. If I could go down it, because I don't want to get bogged down on this whole, like, I don't know. I don't want to talk about like epistemology when it comes to this stuff. I think there's 3 requirements when it comes to whether or not you would be morally justified in basically ending someone's life, right? And that would be the imminence of the threat that's coming towards you, the necessity for you to act out against that threat, and then the proportionality of your actions in relation to what is being caused towards you. Because essentially, this is a precog debate, right? You're trying to stop a pre-crime. You're basically trying to stop someone who you think is about to either cause you harm or kill you.
So do you think people should be allowed to defend property at all?
So I think you should be allowed to defend your own property within the context of, is your property going to be essential for your livelihood? Is it going to be essential for you to live? So is someone trying to, say, attack your house and kill your kids, or attack your house and smash into it, something of that nature? I think that's a far stretch from going to another.
Let's simplify it.
Sure.
Like, okay, you're a shop owner and you see someone stealing something from your store. Can you I'm not saying kill them, but can you go up and be like, grab them and be like, hey, stop stealing from my store?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so you're allowed to defend your property to some extent.
To some extent, right? But right there, you've already said that you're going to stop them. You're not going to shoot them. So you're not basically like right away. You've kind of met that third qualification, the proportionality. Someone's trying to steal, so you might like grab their hand and stop them from stealing that item, right? That's different. And then are you going to accelerate that to the point where can you justify shooting them for trying to grab those chips?
Well, so what happens when you grab the guy and he drops the chips but pulls a knife and then tries to stab you? Are you allowed morally to pull out the gun you're carrying and shoot him? So
at that point, he's no longer stealing your property. He's trying to attack you.
Right.
Yeah. So at that point, it's a matter of self-defense, right?
So how come
self-defense should always be highly analogous to the punishment? I think that's the important thing that we have to take away from this.
No, but what I'm getting at is, why are you classifying the Kyle situation differently? He wasn't defending property; he was defending his person, just like the shopkeeper would be in our hypothetical situation.
Right. So, why was he there in the first place? Was he there to defend his person? Was he there? Oh, so he was there to defend property. So he walked into an area which is going to be obviously antagonistic. He walked into an area where people are going to be armed. He walked into a conflict zone, and he's then going there to defend property that's not his.
So is that the contention, that it wasn't his property?
Well, that's one of the contentions. That's not only the contention for myself as a moralist, but like that would be my contention from a legal framework. Like, do you guys, have you looked into the Wisconsin law and how it applies to him?
I haven't looked into the legality of it. I'm not sure.
Well, let's do that, because this is important.
Well, I'm more interested in the moral part of it.
We got to talk about both. We can't really separate the two, right? Because laws are essentially a reflection of our morals. That's the entire point of this.
That's the Adam perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. Hey, I want to ask a quick question here, because so you're going to make the argument that if he illegally crossed state lines, he was underage, there were all these other laws that he broke, therefore he forfeits his right to self-defense. Is that the argument you're making?
No, that's not the argument I'm making. But I am saying that in that case, right, from a legal standpoint, he's forfeiting his legal defense in that state.
Well,
wait a minute. But let's look at this, because I just want to state this. Wisconsin law stipulates any person under 18 years of age who possesses or goes armed with a dangerous weapon is guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. And then there's the 939 statute that says you cannot claim self-defense in defense of property if you yourself do not own the property. That includes place of business. So the law is very clear when it comes to this.
Okay,
you cannot claim self-defense if you're defending property that you yourself do not own.
I haven't. The problem is I haven't looked through any of these statutes, so I can't validate or talk about any of them, because I don't know if you're reading them properly. I don't know anything about this. I'm not prepared to do an in-depth conversation on the law of the situation. So.
But if we're going to be talking about this, and it's the subject you wanted, we have to explore this as well, right? We can't. You just want to concentrate only on morality, like just the philosophy on this.
Why not?
Well, because they're intertwined. Obviously, it's like it's not as black and white. Like, I know you'd like to paint it as this kind of binary where he comes in there and it's like, well, was he justified or not? And then should we walk away with that?
Well, no,
when there's so much more to this conversation. It's such a racially charged conversation, to say the very least.
Obviously, nothing's a black and white binary. I'm just trying to understand why you're saying that if a shopkeeper can defend himself when being attacked, why Kyle Rittenhouse can't defend himself when he's being attacked.
Well, in order to do that, we have to paint the whole picture, right? So,
but what's the difference between the hypothetical situation and the Kyle situation?
Can we look at the law?
Let's go into it.
He was not the shopkeeper owner. It wasn't. They were not stealing his chips. He did not own the store. He was not going in there, for that purpose.
If Kyle was the son of the guy whose gas station he was protecting, or the car dealership, would this change your opinion? Would it be self-defense all of a sudden?
So what are the people doing to the property itself? Were they smashing windows of cars? And then at that moment, did he say, I'm taking it upon myself to be a hero, and I'm now going to shoot these people for smashing the cars?
No, he didn't.
None of that.
No. Wait. No, there's no evidence that he was shooting or aiming at anyone who was doing anything like that.
Right. We're in the middle of
all
a hypothetical.
We know is that he was
you just proposed a hypothetical scenario, and I'm asking you to extrapolate on it. Like, give me some more color on this. So you say he's suddenly the shopkeeper's son.
Fine. The hypothetical would be he is the car dealership's son. He's standing in front of it with a gun. He's saying, "Yeah, you guys can protest. Just leave this private property safely and alone." Someone starts a dumpster fire. He puts it out with a fire extinguisher, and that upsets someone who decides to chase him. he runs away, and in the middle of running away, the guy tries to grab him and he turns and shoots him.
Right. So at that point, you've gone from him defending property to defending himself. Because he's run away from the area. He's not defending the property. He's not trying to put the dumpster fire out anymore. He's trying to defend himself from an ongoing attacker. That's separate from defending personal property.
So you agree that that's self-defense?
If you're being directly attacked by someone, yeah, that's self-defense. In this case, if we're going to leave the hypothetical scenario, this was a situation in which the attacker, right, threw what was thought to be something, I don't know, a Molotov cocktail was the first rumor I heard, turned out to be a plastic bag. That's what the police report says. So it's not as if the person who's attacking him has a gun. The person who was attacking him, did not have a firearm, and then he still shot him dead.
How is that relevant if someone's within grabbing distance of you?
So grabbing distance.
Firearm.
Well, again, so let's go back to these 3 golden rules, because that's why I wanted to establish them at the very start. Is it going to be proportional? What's the necessity? Is there an imminence of threat? All 3 of those are very, very important when determining whether or not it's moral for him to have done what he did.
So you don't think it's reasonable if a person who you don't really have an interaction with, completely unprovoked, chases you and is trying to grab you in a contentious political protest and grab your gun as you're running away? You're doing your duty to flee from this person.
So
chasing you. So are you saying that if you're in a Kyle situation, you're just gonna what? You're just gonna stand there, let the guy attack you?
Maybe he's just me, because like I'm not anti-firearm. I'm for responsible gun ownership, but I can't imagine a scenario where someone is chasing me without a weapon, and my first response is to shoot them in the face.
No, but that's what I'm asking you. So if someone's chasing you, you're standing there. Say that there's an angry riot, or let's say angry protest that has sometimes caused riots, but not always, of anti-immigration ideas or something, of people who are very anti-immigration. And there's been some people burning down buildings in response to this. And you're defending the shop of some nice immigrant person who started their own business. And one of these protesters starts chasing you and you're running away. And the guy's right about to grab you. You're just going to let him grab the gun from you? You're just going to let it happen?
As opposed to shoot him in the face?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would choose not to shoot him in the face.
Okay. So you're willing to potentially sacrifice yourself than to take another person's life?
No. See, it goes both ways. This cuts both ways. So in both cases, right, you have to decide whether or not you're going to forfeit someone else's right to life. We're talking about this if it's strictly from a moralistic stance. So can I sacrifice that person's right to life? Is it going to be proportional to what's happening to me? Is he trying to grab my gun? Is he throwing a plastic bag at me? Is that the extent of it? Then no, I don't think I have the right to forfeit his right to life by shooting him in the face.
Right. So you're making the calculation that the risk of when this guy is chasing you and grabs you, you're making the calculated risk that you're going to allow that to occur as opposed to defend yourself?
Well, I mean,
on the off chance he doesn't kill you?
In the off chance that he doesn't kill me. And what's the risk from the other end? So what's the risk for the person who's going after him? Because he feels that this individual may be going to shoot him or other people. And so you're saying, does he have a right to perhaps defend himself?
How about the guy chasing, the guy with the gun?
Right. Well, no, not just the guy with the gun, not just Kyle Rittenhouse, but the person chasing after Kyle Rittenhouse, or even the individuals afterwards who were trying to stop Kyle Rittenhouse.
What was the first guy's name? Let's use names because it's getting...
Yeah, for sure.
What was the first guy's name? Do you remember?
Peter 1. I don't remember his name.
Wasn't it? Does anyone in the chat know?
I'm interested.
Rosenberg or something?
While he's looking that up, Lance, can you give me the three? You call them the 3 golden rules. I don't know that it is the golden rule.
No. But I'm just trying to ground my own moral axioms here, right? Because I figured that would save us time, so we don't go in circles. So
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So the first one would be imminence, the imminence of the threat. The second would be the necessity in order to respond, and the third would be proportionality. So how is your response in relation to the violence being caused against you? And again, when it comes to self-defense, I think it has to be highly analogous to the punishment being committed.
So anyway, the guy's name was Rosenbaum. So you're saying, I didn't understand what you were asking, that you're saying the threat from Rosenbaum's perspective?
Well, I'm saying in both cases, right? So you're saying this is a matter of moral. So you want to say whether or not he was morally justified in shooting the first person because he felt, in your opinion, and if I'm mischaracterizing you, please let me know. But in your opinion, the person was posing an imminent threat to his life. That's how you're reading this, right?
Yeah, a potential imminent threat. Sure.
Okay, so a potential imminent threat. So in response, he then has the right to forfeit his life in order to protect his own, because that's the only way things are going to go. And even though, by the way, I think I'm being pretty charitable in saying that, because if you watch the video footage, there was someone else who shoots off into the corner. They shoot a firearm into the air. I don't know if they shot it into the sky, which is a bad idea. The bullets will rain down upon you at some point. But anyways, that is also what could have provoked him to shoot first, right? He may have heard a gunshot, and it's not related to this, or maybe it was. Maybe the person was trying to scare him. But that gunshot also could have been enough for him to be like, oh God, and then shoot, in the heat of the moment. So that fear did not come directly from Rosenbaum in that case, if that's the case, right? This is just us reading the video footage we see.
Yeah, but he didn't shoot him immediately after the shot. They both turned, if I recall correctly, they both heard the shot, turned, then the chase continued for another couple seconds. Rosenbaum is within grabbing distance. He has his arms out, and then that's when Kyle shoots him. So I guess it's weird to me, because it sounds like you're saying that if you're Kyle in the situation, you're going to allow Rosenbaum to grab the gun, and you're going to just let the chips fall where they may.
Well, no, we're trying to get to the root, because this seems to be a focus point. And again, I'm hoping we can also move past just the moral arguments, because it's unusual to me that this conversation is getting stuck in something like this when there's so many more facets to it. But if that's the route we want to go down, there's a lot of things that Kyle's done before that, that encounter even happens, that I think is forfeiting the moral ground as well. And I'm sure you've heard the list ad nauseum, right? Traveling across state lines, perhaps with a firearm. He claims he got it there, but that's one thing. Not allowed to carry the weapon that he has. He's not even legally allowed to own it. He's not allowed to open carry it either.
How did the crossing the state lines thing that forfeits his right to self-defense? Is that what you're saying?
No, a lot of this forfeits his legal stance on this, but it forfeits his moral right to self-defense in the sense that, like, he's not just standing there as an innocent good old boy. Wait, hold on. He's not just standing there as an innocent good old boy, and then suddenly he was just attacked, and that's like out of nowhere. It's like, oh, how did this happen? How could this perfect angel have these monsters befall upon him? Right?
Do you think security guards forfeit their life?
Sorry, you're both talking at the same time.
Do you think security guards forfeit their self-defense right if they're defending something?
If they're defending property as a job?
Yeah.
So it depends. Again, we have to think about the situation. There's no blanket statement for all of this. That's why I'm giving you these 3 rules in order to be able to justify whether or not each situation is going to be dependent on it. Is the security guard in an imminent threat? What's the necessity of his response? And what's the proportionality going to be to the response itself?
What about illegal?
But again, you're kind of skirting past. And
Stich. Yeah. What about illegal immigrants? Do illegal immigrants forfeit their right to self-defense when they cross the border illegally into the United States? There are millions of illegal immigrants that are living in this country right now.
Okay. So the minute they forfeit, do you think that these are in any way analogous, these two scenarios?
I'm asking you. You're the one that said he forfeits his right to self-defense when he crossed the state lines illegally. I
didn't say that, but cool straw man. I'm saying that there's a whole bunch of things.
So what did you say then exactly?
I said, okay, if we can go through the list of things, there's a lot that Kyle Rittenhouse did in order to make me think that, yeah, he did not go there as a good old boy looking to clean graffiti and just save some lives. So these things are very important, okay? These things are...
I'm asking you specifically about the crossing state lines thing.
Okay, that's one of them.
Because he crossed state lines illegally, he forfeited the moral high ground. Do you put that same standard on illegal immigrants who have illegally crossed a state line to come into the United States?
This is neat. This is like a bizarre straw man for a really disanalogous scenario. But sure, do you want me to go through that one? I can go through that one as well. So
do illegal immigrants have the moral right to defend themselves?
Do illegal immigrants have the moral right to defend themselves?
Same people have crossed
within the same scenarios that I've, of course, within the same scenarios that I presented you with. The same scenarios. Do you remember them? Because if we go through all 3 of those, yes, it depends on the scenario. This is not we can't blanket statement these.
Okay.
Well, it's not a blanket statement. We're trying to isolate the independent variables here, and it feels like you don't want to do that.
Oh, I'm fine. Like isolating the independent variables in this scenario. And when it comes to Kyle Rittenhouse, it's unusual to me why we keep missing these points. Like why isn't this? Because we want to cut it down to this really black and white scenario where Kyle Rittenhouse, was he morally justified in order to defend himself in this one scenario? As if everything else happened in a vacuum, right? As if nothing else matters. The fact that he's like not legally allowed to own the gun. The fact that he's defending property that he doesn't even know.
Well, that's not
the fact that he's defending.
Not what we're trying to do. We're trying to isolate each variable independently.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say like, well, he crossed state lines, then we have to say, okay, well, if he didn't, does that change your thought on it? And if you say it doesn't, then we throw that variable out because that's not really relevant to the conversation.
Well, no, because I'm saying it's not just one variable. It's like, let's paint a tapestry is kind of my point here. Yes, it's a list of variables. Can you tell us,
is it 5 variables? Is it 6 variables? When is the variable
when does it stop?
Crossed?
Well, we're talking about a very specific case, a case in which we're trying to isolate and are they hierarchical? Does that change things if I classify them, if I put them in a list?
Was there like a primary variable that if that alone changed, then your opinion on this would change?
Yeah, I suppose so. If I was to pick apart, I think eventually I would say that there's certain things that he did that were bad or good, but that doesn't change the fact that I don't think he was morally justified in what he was doing.
I just, before we move on, I just want to get clarity. I've asked you a question, you haven't answered it.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Do illegal immigrants have the moral right to self-defense?
I did answer that, but I'll repeat it a second time. That's fine. I said it depends on the scenario. So again, I'd have to go through those 3 points, but depending on the scenario, the border.
So there are plenty of scenarios where illegal immigrants forfeit the right to self-defense in your book. Can you list one of those scenarios where an illegal immigrant forfeits right to self-defense?
Well, if they were crossing the border and then they immediately were about to attack someone, so that person would then have the moral ground to self-defend themselves, right? If they were about to kill somebody, then yes, that person could act in self-defense.
But those illegal immigrants are criminals.
But that doesn't have to do with them crossing the border. That has to do with them attacking someone.
Yeah, exactly. It's an independent variable.
So this is the gotcha we're hinging on. It's the imaginary lines argument, as if like, we
want to separate. We want to get rid of that variable.
You brought up the imaginary lines argument.
Well, I was bringing up a handful of things that I think characterize Kyle Rittenhouse as foregoing, yes, the moral grandstanding here. Like, how about I ask you some questions here?
Go ahead.
Why did Kyle Rittenhouse go to that area to defend that property? What was the purpose?
Didn't he have a job working as a lifeguard in that city?
Yeah, he worked there.
So he went to work his job, then he decided to volunteer his time cleaning graffiti, and then someone called and said, hey, can anyone help defend this piece of property at night? And he said, sure. Do
you think he actually got like a literal call? Was it like the bat signal went out and then all of a sudden he's like, I can be a hero?
I think he got like a phone call. That's what that's the
lawyer's deposition. But that to me is so comical. I didn't know that we'd be running with that.
Why is that common? Wait, why is that common?
Do you have better information? If you have better information, please provide it.
Well, my assertion would be that because he's part of this militia, that he saw perhaps a post on Facebook where, yes, that property owner was asking for people to come defend property, which might add a little bit to the racially charged motivation for this whole thing. But when it comes to...
do you have evidence of this? Where are you getting this?
Okay, so the evidence in one direction is coming from their legal team, right? That's where the evidence comes that he got the phone call.
Based on a statement from Kyle Rittenhouse.
Absolutely.
You're doing hypotheticals.
And so if that is what turns out to be true, that's like ridiculous to me. Like, I don't understand in what world does business owners reach out to high school kids saying, hey, please come help me. Come defend my property. Do you think the business
owner called Kyle personally, or do you think he called whoever was organizing
or militia
and said, hey, can you help me out with this?
Yeah, they had a cleanup going at the high school, cleaning up graffiti. He probably called the cleanup crew.
I mean, it wasn't just kids. There was a whole bunch of adults.
So he called the cleanup crew, and then whose decision was it to send kids to go protect property with guns?
Kyle Rittenhouse volunteered.
So that's
according to the statement. I mean, that's what we're going off of. But you're basically saying that the lawyer statement is incorrect, and you have this other theory of exactly what happened. But that
I'm fine. I'm fine believing the lawyer statement. To me, the lawyer statement like that to me is just a ridiculous premise. I mean, maybe it's something that happens often, and I'm just woefully unaware of it. But it's where kids or groups, or even people who work in pools or want to wash stuff off, are interested in going and helping out and protecting property at gunpoint.
But you have this other idea that he was checking his Facebook. Like, where did you get that idea from?
Oh, that's another idea that's been reported. But here, I can pull up the article.
Yeah,
I think it was the New York Times saying where exactly did the call come from. So yeah, the New York Times was reporting that apparently there were calls on Facebook for people to come defend property. Now, whether or not the militia chose to use that, whether or not they saw it, or if actually Kyle Rittenhouse got, again, the bat signal, he got a personal phone call from the person, or the group itself got the phone call, in either rate. That's one part of this in which. So do you think then that makes it okay for him to go defend someone else's property because of the fact that he was reached out to? Let's say that.
Well, I think it's irrelevant. I think he would be morally justified in self-defense regardless. So I don't really know what the point is on harping on this, but I was just explaining to you how I assumed the situation went down based on the evidence I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how this is that relevant. Do you think that changes anything?
Well, all of these things are relevant. First off, like, he was not legally allowed to own that firearm. Is that relevant?
Not to his immediate self-defense, no.
That doesn't matter at all.
Wait, so do you think that if you had a gun that you weren't allowed to own and someone tries to murder you, you're not allowed to kill the person with the gun because you're not allowed to have it?
Oh, because it's beside you. No, I think, again, if you're acting in self-defense and you have an immediate threat to your life, yeah, you can use that. But that is one of many things when it comes to Kyle Rittenhouse, that, again, he was not walking into this as an innocent bystander. He was not walking into this and then all of a sudden, Kyle Rittenhouse, how did this happen? Like, we never could have predicted this. How did he all of a sudden get attacked in this scenario? He was going there with the intent purpose to protect property at gunpoint, right?
Do you not think people should be allowed to protect property? That's what it seems like we keep coming back to.
We keep coming back to this. Well, I mean, we're just going to go in circles. I can keep giving you the same answer. I think you can defend property if it's something that is immediate to your livelihood, like if you will need it to be able to survive. For example, if someone is about to smash your bottle of heart medication, then your heart will stop if they do that. It's pretty much the same as if they're just about to stab you in the heart. So that's an instance where I'll grant you that, yes, you can defend that heart medication.
Well, no, but you said that you can defend the bag of chips. You said that earlier. That's not immediate to your well-being, right?
Well, yeah, my answer there remains the exact same. I don't think you can shoot someone in the face if they try to steal your bag of chips. And I certainly don't think you can shoot someone in the face if they steal your friend's bag of chip.
No one's suggesting that.
Of course. Well, that's why we have to look at this as a case-specific thing. We have to go down this piece by piece, right?
Right, but we have to look at some variables, right?
Yes, absolutely.
We've established, okay, so wait a minute. So we've established that you believe it's okay to defend property, okay? As well, not lethally, right? It's okay.
Not said that, but sure. Let's go on.
You said the shopkeeper is allowed to defend the bag of chips, okay? Or allowed to
I also didn't say that. You're mischaracterizing me. I'm saying,
well, how am I
remember, so I mean, we can go back in the VOD, but your example was if someone grabbed a bag of chips, can you stop them from grabbing that bag of chips?
Right.
I said, yeah, you can try to stop them.
Okay, when I say defend property, that's what I'm, is that not how you would categorize defending property, grabbing someone, taking a bag of chips?
Yeah, but am I going to be able to kill them over those chips?
Well, but we're not there yet, though. We got to take a step by step. Okay?
All right, let's do it.
So you're saying that yes, you can defend property. You're fine with the concept of an individual person defending property, right?
Right. With non-lethal means to an extent, based on the scenario.
Means,
yeah, of course. Based on the scenario, sure.
So, but then you also, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you said that if the person who was aggressing on the property then turns it into a lethal situation or potentially lethal situation, the person is then allowed to use self-defense to end the other person's life.
Right. But you're no longer defending property at that point. You're defending your person.
Right. You're now defending yourself.
Right.
Sure.
So we've separated the two.
Right. So that's what I'm getting at is with Kyle. He's there to defend the property. Which
not his property.
Okay. So that's what I'm asking. Is that the contention?
Well, it's one of many contentions. But it's a pretty huge one, both from a legal standpoint and from a moral one as well.
No, but so in our hypothetical, if it wasn't a shopkeeper, if it was Spider-Man, we all know the Spider-Man origin story, right? The guy runs by and the shopkeeper's like, hey, stop that guy. And Spider-Man does it. And the guy goes off and kills Uncle Ben. So if it's not his property, you're not morally allowed to stop a person. Is that where you're coming from?
Well, you've now separated again to whether or not he's attacking someone versus property. Like, these things have to be different, right? Like,
Well, first of all, we have no evidence that he's attacking one. He's standing in front of a business, right?
Yeah, he's standing in front of a business. But in your scenario, in this hypothetical, the Spider-Man 101 environment, right? So in that case, you've gone like, oh, he's gone on to kill Uncle Ben. I mean, that's what we call slippery slope fallacy, right?
I'm ignore that. I'm just talking about the incident of the guy running by and the shopkeeper's like, stop that guy. You don't think you have any you don't think it's moral for you to stop that guy. You think it's immoral for you to stop that guy.
To stop the person who's running away?
Yeah.
Well, how do you know about what's happening? Like,
you see, okay, we're getting way too off on.
Yeah,
on
we're in the weeds, so to speak.
Okay, we're getting in the weeds. Okay. So so is the contention here is that if Kyle's was the owner of the store, would it have been fine for him to defend the store?
It depends on the scenario.
What would be the scenario where it wouldn't be okay for him to defend the store?
Okay, so he owns this car shop.
Right.
I don't think he's morally justified in shooting people who would simply be damaging the property when they're not posing a direct threat to his life.
Well, I don't agree. I don't disagree with that necessarily, but that's not what happened. Right?
See, at each one of these scenarios, we eventually accelerate to this point where he stopped attacking property and he started to attack a person. So we can separate the two. And I think you could do the very same, because you want to have this argument whether or not it's morally justifiable to defend property. That always seems to accelerate to the point where he's defending himself or defending a person, right?
We can have the conversation about whether you can kill someone over property, which I think you can. But that's not exactly what happened in Kyle's situation. As we've said, it escalated from he was defending property to he was defending his life. And it sounds like you're saying that him going there in the first place, him simply defending property in the first place, forgoes the fact that he was defending his own life.
So simply defending property forgoes the fact that he would be defending his own life. I think that you will lose the moral high ground if the scenario involving you traveling across state lines, carrying a firearm that's not your own to defend property that you don't have. And I'm going to give you guys the good graces of, skirting away perhaps the, let's say, more highly charged reasons why he might be in there. But all of those things, all of a sudden, it's a very different scenario than you were simply standing in front of your shop, trying to protect your shop from people trying to attack you. You are going for an ideological reason. He's not going over there simply to protect property. He's going over there because he's part of a larger culture war, right? He's going over there as part of the, let's say, the Blue Lives Matter movement, perhaps the MAGA movement. And it happens to have a lot more to do with that than it is simply him going there for the purposes of being an upstanding citizen.
So do you think if someone goes to a place for an ideological reason, they forego their right to self-defense if someone attacks them?
And what about the people that they're attacking? This is important, right?
Well, no, but wait, that's not what I asked you, though.
Okay, so does someone forego the right to self-defense?
If they're going to a place for an ideological reason.
That alone, no, because you would need more than that.
There's a problem here, Lance, because
please.
You keep adding these things together, and you're creating this matrix of things that we can never get to the bottom.
The matrix,
well, no, seriously, I asked you a very important question, because is it 5 things? Is it 3 things? Like, which thing is most important? Like, I don't understand the logic of these things stack up to an argument.
Because what I think you generally, and I'm not if I'm straw manning you here, tell me, right? But I'm going to try and steel man here. I think I like, when we cut this down, what you would really like is me to be able to give you just a yes or no answer, when I think that these situations are always multifaceted and there's this doesn't happen in a vacuum. So there are a whole bunch of things we have to consider, rather than just saying at any given point, anyone should be allowed to do blank because of blank. So that's why I'm saying, and I didn't want us to spend, an inordinate amount of time going in circles here. That's why I was like, I'm going to, right out of the gates, lay down what would be my qualifiers for this and when it is rightfully for an individual to act in self-defense.
Can we just go to what is the most important factor? Is it the ideology? Is it the state lines? Is it the
well, in this case, the most important factor would probably be that he is trying to defend property that isn't his.
Okay, so that's the number one criteria.
That would probably be the first thing.
Not own the property. Doesn't that make all police, though, immoral? Because police, by their very nature, that's their job description, is to defend property that they don't own.
Are you going to go full ACAB?
I'm asking you your position. Well, you're the one. You are the one. Listen, do you believe doctors have a moral vocation? Do you think what they're doing betters society? Doctors, by saving lives.
Do I think they have a moral vocation? As in what they're doing is morally justified?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know why you would have to justify your job in that scenario. I don't know whether that requires.
Well, generally, we want to have a job that's morally good for society. That's why people.
Generally, most people don't really get the pleasure of that opportunity. Most people take a job because they have to survive. That's kind of how it works.
Well, you're making the argument here that anyone who defends property that they themselves do not own is morally reprehensible or morally.
Well, does it not strike you as weird as shooting people or killing people to protect I don't know, your television, your fleshlights? Like, would you murder a bunch of people to protect your fleshlight collection? That would be really weird to me.
But that's not analogous to the situation.
No, it's not. Totally. It's ridiculous. But like, I'm not trying to tickle your prostates with this. I'm just saying that, you know, to me, that's why it comes across as morally, let's just say, bizarre.
But do you understand that there are police officers who it is their job to protect other people's property? That's the whole job.
Oh yeah, are we going to go down this rabbit hole? Because I'd love to talk about this. There's a huge problem with that.
So you are saying that police are morally reprehensible. That police, what they do is, well, maybe more.
It's neat because like you kind of set up these scenarios and then you'll end with what I assume is kind of like, and that's why you say blank.
I don't want to straw man you. I don't want to straw man you, Lance. You tell me your position, okay?
So if we're going to talk about the police, because I think this would be interesting, because I know most of your audience probably despises me, but this might be a neat time to have some of them, because I'm in here because I want to leave the echo chamber, you know. So we're both getting high level ideas, you know, sped at each other in rapid time. When it comes to the police and property damage and property crime, right? Which again is what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be stopping people from, like, none of us want I've had my car broken into. I've had my stereo stolen before. It's a shitty feeling. No one likes theft, crime, that kind of stuff, right? In society, what is the largest form of theft that occurs to a large scale? Like whether it be, I don't know, jewels, property, stereos, fleshlights.
I have no idea. If it's fleshlights, I'm gonna be amazed. What is it?
I was just waiting for both answers. The answer is wage theft, and I don't mean that from a Marxist standpoint or a far leftist standpoint or anything like that. That's just from a straight on the books. So if you look at the reports every year,
unreported hours.
Not just unreported hours. We're talking about whether or not bosses just don't pay their workers' wages. They don't pay them for overtime. When people are fired, they don't pay them afterwards. And it's to such an incredible degree. Like, it's an outrageous degree
so off topic. We've I don't know where we're going with this. Like,
we're just going down new rabbit holes. We're having fun.
Well, no, but the question Adam asked was, is it okay for the police to try to protect private property? And if that escalates into a lethal situation to then,
well, no, he said the sentence. So Lance thinks police are morally repugnant. That was the sentence that was said.
So
and I said, did you want to go down this rabbit hole? Because I'd like to, because we can actually
revise. Okay, to stay on, try to stay on topic here. Okay,
morally.
But was it just that you?
I guess is the word.
Sure, but was it that? So if that's the case, if the case is that in society there's one crime that's been done to such a huge level, that's happening on such a wide scale, and it's unfortunate because it cannot be policed in the sense that we just have a very small amount of people who are operating or trying to stop this.
What are you talking about?
Oh, wage theft. Unfortunately, it's not. So the statistics just don't bear that out. Unfortunately, it gets wildly either unreported or it's just wildly unenforced. It's a huge problem, and we're talking to the tune of billions of dollars within American society.
I don't think me or Adam are in favor of wage theft. So
absolutely,
again,
I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are. But
I don't understand what the point
I know
of
a couple attorneys that make a lot of money like prosecuting wage theft. So
this is like a very
good for them
tangent that has like really nothing to do with what we were talking about.
Sure, but if you want to ask and you say the sentence, Lance thinks police are morally repugnant, and you probably hear the expression, by the way, when I understood
what Adam meant in the comment. We're revising.
I do think it
about in the limited scenario of protecting property.
I do want to commend you though, Lance, that you are conceptualizing labor as private property. I think that's a step in the right direction. I think it.
Here we go. Hey, I want to commend you for going full ACAB. I don't even say that on my show, so that was pretty aggressive. But hey, good job. I mean, yeah.
What are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? That's your position, buddy.
He's triggering you. He's trying to troll you. Anyway,
saying.
So wait, hold on.
You're the one saying that police are morally reprehensible, Lance.
Right.
I again never said that. Those are the words leaving your lips. Those are your words. But
listen. I'm going to shoot if I think I'm going to break a nail. Okay.
Sure.
Seriously.
Sure.
So, but let's go back to the question. Do you think the police should be morally allowed to use lethal force in order to protect private property if the person that is aggressing on the private property, escalates the situation?
So are they an imminent threat? Are they about to be killed as people?
We don't know. I mean, they're getting attacked, right?
That's another thing.
But the police are separate from civilians, right? We have to separate them from civilians because they're actually being paid to do this. They're getting your tax dollars to do. So so
I would say that they have a greater responsibility than an individual citizen
to defend private property.
That should be their job. To try to de-escalate the situation.
See, well, that would be wonderful. I mean, if only the cops did that all the time, de-escalated situations, then we probably wouldn't be having as many, I don't know, debates about this kind of stuff as we are.
Okay, so can they do it all the time though? Is any institution perfect?
Oh, absolutely not. No question.
Okay, good. We agree. Go on, Stich.
So just to be clear, so the police can use lethal force if they're defending private property. If they go to a place to defend private property.
Oh, I never said that. I never said whether or not I would be okay with that. I'm just saying.
I thought you did. Okay, so you're not okay with that.
I'm really not for the idea of let's just say taxpayer dollars going towards an organization that overwhelmingly does not get the results that the people or the populace would want.
Well, I'm asking you very specific.
Yeah, I know you're asking me whether or not it's going to be morally justified for a police officer to kill someone else in the defense of somebody else's property, correct?
If the person escalates it to potential, lethal situation.
I mean, my moral standing for people defending themselves against active violence would still be the same. I would refer to those three things, but I think the situation changes when someone is being paid to do that, right? So if they are being paid to be an aggressor in that situation, he wouldn't be there if it wasn't for his job as a police officer, correct?
Right. Sure. We assume.
I
just want a point of clarity on it, because your first priority is imminence, but no one has a crystal ball. How do you know if something is imminent?
Well, that's why this entire thing. That's why I'm kind of perplexed that we want to keep talking about the moral justification of Kyle Rittenhouse instead of any other conversation. The ones that would, I think, be really pertinent to this. But it always comes down to this. And yeah, you're right. It is a crystal ball thing. This is precog. All right, we're doing the Minority Report thing. We're trecog to see whether or not someone's going.
We're not doing.
We're not.
We're saying you're in that situation.
You're not doing precog. Oh.
Yeah, we're saying if you're in that situation, do you have the moral right to defend yourself? That's not.
First off, precog isn't like an expression. I'm not dropping like the precog truth bombs or anything. When I say precog, I'm referencing that movie. But you're basically.
I know what the word means to see into the future.
Yeah.
We know what
I love that.
Right. Movie. So the idea is whether or not you're going to know if someone's about to attack you or kill you. So you're trying to stop a crime. You're doing pre-crime, right? You're deciding on your own whether or not you can sacrifice their right to live based on the fact that you think they're going to take yours. That's it.
Right. Well, someone's chasing you and you don't know what exactly their intention is. And you can't, as you said, you're not a precog. You can't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it sounds like what you're saying is that unless you 100% know that person has lethal intention, that you should not shoot them.
Well, again, it would come down to those three categories for me. So the imminence, the necessity, and the proportionality of my response to that person. Because again, I could not apply a blanket statement to every scenario.
Well, what is the moral culpability of the guy chasing?
But the moral culpability?
Yeah.
What was his intent? Was he trying to disarm him? Was he trying to stop him? Was he trying to kill him? Was he trying to throw a plastic bag at him?
Let's just say he's trying to disarm him.
He's just trying to disarm him?
Yes.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't have a right to be killed for that.
How does the guy who's being disarmed or the potential guy with a gun have any idea that that's what the guy's intentions are?
I'd agree with you. There's no way of knowing in that scenario. But again, Kyle Rittenhouse is not an innocent bystander who was just standing in the middle of the street and then a guy just chased after him. Like, did Kyle Rittenhouse put himself in that scenario? Did Kyle Rittenhouse arrive there with a firearm to defend property that he did not own?
So again, it seems like you're saying this all hinges on the fact of Kyle placing himself in a situation in the first place somehow forgoes him the right to self-defense.
Well, is he the aggressor? That would be a very important question.
Well, you're just backing up the aggressor. Obviously, the guy chasing him and trying to disarm him is the aggressor, but you're backing it up and you're saying,
is he the only aggressor? Again,
well, you're basically
these are hypotheticals. We don't know whether or not he was there. We don't know whether or not he was actually standing there and pointing guns at people and saying stop destroying cars. We don't know whether or not he had already pointed his gun at people and told them to stop. Like, at what point is he also going to be I don't know, some level of guilt is going to be placed upon him for his actions? Like, at what point do you guys, like, here's that, I guess that's a question for you, because I want to learn more about you.
If he was doing any of the things that you have claimed he's doing,
Yeah.
If he was waving his gun around and, saying, "Get on your fucking knees, asshole." Like, yeah, sure. I think you got a case, but there's no evidence to imply that he was doing any of those things.
Well, just okay. Well, is that it? Is that basically that's the line? That's the bar. Is if he was basically pointing a gun at people and saying just like,
well, I don't even know if I
was the aggressor. Yeah.
I don't even know if I'd say pointing a gun at someone is enough, because once the guy runs away, like the person is running away from you.
Okay, so
why are you escalating? Because you were talking about like escalating the threat, which I agree is bad. If someone's running away from you, why are you chasing them? Why are you escalating the potential conflict?
So in your scenario, if it's him chasing someone with a gun and saying get on the ground or what, that at that point he's the aggressor. If I flip that around,
wait, I don't understand what you just.
Yeah, okay, so flip it around for us.
Yeah, well, I'm just curious. So in that case, if the same thing had been happening, if Kyle Rittenhouse had been doing the same thing, if we flip this entire scenario on its head, right, then is the other individual the aggressor?
Well, paint the exact scenario out.
Okay, so let me just get this right, Adam. So you were saying that if someone was to point a gun, if Kyle Rittenhouse was pointing a gun at someone and saying, "Hey, I'm going to kill you," like get on the floor, I'm going to kill you.
He's the aggressor.
He's the aggressor.
Let's make it easy.
Right.
Yes. The aggressor's at fault. That's the argument that we're making.
The aggressor's at fault. Okay. So in this case, was Kyle Rittenhouse being chased by a person who said, "Get on the floor, I'm going to kill you"?
We don't know what he was yelling. I think he said "fuck you" or something.
That would be according to your own standards. That would be the justification for Kyle Rittenhouse to have killed him in that scenario.
My example is not all examples. I'm just saying.
Of course it's not. Exactly. Thank you. And that's what we're saying. It cannot be. Yes, but it cannot be a blanket statement. We cannot just say, well, this one scenario says it's fine for all of it. That's the problem with this. There's not a binary. It doesn't happen in a vacuum.
But I am making the case that the aggressor is the one at fault. I'm saying that you're complicating the issue by making you want to make the aggressiveness more or less, and you want to say that it depends upon the level of aggressiveness. I'm taking that out of the equation. I'm saying
I'm doing the exact same thing you've been doing to me this whole podcast. This is it. This is the same thing. It's just been flipped. No, that's why I agree with you. Like, I think we agree about the same thing here. You cannot just isolate one little thing and be like, well, that doesn't apply to all scenarios. Of course it doesn't.
I am isolating one thing, though. I'm saying that the aggressor is at fault. You're the one complicating it by adding in the level of aggression. I don't care about the level of aggression. I just use that for a whimsical example, okay? We're talking about who is the aggressor here. Obviously, from what we've seen, the chaser was the aggressor. Kyle Rittenhouse was fleeing. And I'm saying that if you flip that around and you seem to agree that if Kyle Rittenhouse was the aggressor, then he loses the moral high ground. So we're basically making an argument that whoever is the aggressor loses the moral high ground. Like we have some kind of duty to de-escalate.
Well, I agree. We do have duty. But we also have a duty to de-escalate, of course. I don't think that's usually what happens.
So, but let's flip it around, because I think that's a good idea. If Kyle is with his gun is chasing a guy, we don't know why he's chasing the guy. If Kyle's chasing a guy with a gun, does the guy have the right to turn around and shoot Kyle?
Kyle's chasing a guy with a gun. Does the guy have a right to? Is Kyle about to shoot him again? Does it fit those three characterizations I said? We don't know. Well, my response to that would be, again, if you're going to forfeit someone's life, you have to look at three separate things when you're going to judge whether or not you have a right to do so from a moral standpoint.
But the guy doesn't have the luxury. The guy who's being chased doesn't have the luxury to
No, of course not. No one does. I know you're never going to go through that scenario. But we, on the other end, on the internet, where we do the talky talk and the shitty shit, we have the luxury to go through it this way, right? When it comes down to the moment, people just start shots fired. That's what happens. You're not going to sit there and be like, well, I'd like to pull out my moral philosophy now and then go through these three things.
Imminence is impossible to determine because none of us have a crystal ball, and necessity is based on imminence because you don't know what the necessity is until you know whether or not the bodily harm is imminent. So the three criteria that you have, I mean, proportionality is great for after you're assigning punishment for wrongdoing. So I don't necessarily know how these.
But in most of those scenarios, then you would probably look at this. If you were to take a step back, you would look at this on some level as Kyle being an aggressor. Because you are entering.
No, he's de-escalating. He's running away. The other guy is shooting people. The aggressor. Right. You're trying to place, and I see this a lot. People seem to intuitively understand the aggressor is at fault. So you realize that the guy that's your guy, the guy who's there protesting for Black Lives Matter, is the aggressor.
Oh, he's not my guy. I don't know who these people are. I can definitely take a step back from this. Hey, if you want to ask me, do you think it was okay for like an Antifa, a guy in Portland to have shot that other guy in the face? I would say no, that's not okay. Like Jesus Christ, so, I'm not for people just shooting each other in the face. I'm pretty sure I've been pretty
not your
pretty
guy,
standardized on that.
The aggressor in this situation, the protester, you want to turn that around. You want to say, listen, we have a problem here because the aggressor's obviously at fault. And this guy is so obviously the aggressor. Let's figure out how we can make Kyle Rittenhouse the aggressor. And then you go in.
How is he so obviously the aggressor, though? We don't know what happened before that scene. We don't know what led up to that. All we know is that the scenes we've seen in the video footage.
Hold on. At any moment in an altercation, you can de-escalate, right?
Ideally,
Any moment you can de-escalate, correct?
Sure. I mean, yeah. Okay. So you're saying Kyle, being the good old boy that he was, just a good Christian fundamentalist, he was just like, hey, everybody, let's calm down. I'm gonna take a step back.
Christianity in here. Why are you?
Like, well, no. I'm characterizing the good old boy. But anyways, do you think that Kyle?
Does that matter?
How is that relevant?
Yeah. Now we're gonna get stuck on this. All right, sorry. I withdraw my statement of Christianity.
Well, I just think it's interesting that you emotionally load the language so much.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Well, now that we're back on the task at hand, when it comes to Kyle Rittenhouse, do you think that he was not at all acting aggressively? And I'm not saying specifically. Wait. Not in that clip. Not in the clip.
In the other direction.
Being in an environment like that with a gun, showing up there to defend property that isn't his, and he did end up, shooting someone who was again unarmed.
But this is what you're doing. You're trying to put him in the aggressor role. You're backing up and you're saying, listen, the aggression started when he crossed state lines with a gun. You're trying to put Kyle Rittenhouse in the aggressor role because I think intuitively that the aggressor is always at fault.
Well, is that what you're suggesting, that simply defending property with a gun is an aggressive act on its own?
Well, showing up to an area to defend property that isn't yours with an open firearm, and then you ended up shooting someone,
is an act of aggression.
Of course, that's an act of aggression.
And is that act of aggression alone merit someone attacking you?
No, it doesn't, because it's proportional. Because again, like I've been saying since the start of this conversation, it has to be analogous to the punishment.
Right. So how is Rosenbaum acting proportionally by chasing after someone who's standing there defending property?
Someone who's defending property with a gun who could be pointing his gun at people.
Well, that didn't happen though.
Again, you even kind of gave the point that maybe he was going to reach for the gun. Maybe he was reaching for the firearm at the end of the day. That would be what I call de-escalation, because he's like, hey, I don't want you to shoot any more people. So why don't I get this gun away from you?
No. We're talking about Rosenbaum. He hasn't shot anyone. Okay, he's running. Rosenbaum chases a person who's standing there. Okay, mm-hmm. So they're escalating the situation. They're not acting proportional. He chases a guy. The guy's running away from him. He's attempting to de-escalate the situation by fleeing. He's not using force. He's not turning around and instantly shooting the guy. But the guy decides to keep chasing him. And then once he gets within grabbing distance of him, he tries to grab the gun, and that's when Kyle shoots him. Mm-hmm. So I don't see how that's Rosenbaum acting proportionally.
Well, first off, you haven't even said what happened before, because again, obviously you wouldn't. We don't know what happened before that. But that isn't necessarily de-escalating the situation, right?
I'm curious.
How is running away not de-escalating the conflict, the immediate conflict?
I missed what Adam just said.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
How is not running away from a person trying to de-escalate an immediate conflict?
It depends on the scenario. But yes, running away is definitely less aggressive than pointing a gun at someone. Was he pointing a gun at him right before? Was he pointing a gun at anyone before?
We don't know.
We don't know, of course. But I would say that if you're showing up to a scenario to defend someone else's property with a gun, and again, there are accounts in some of those videos where people said he had pointed the gun at other individuals before. Is that aggressive? Are you acting as an aggressor?
So if Kyle pointed the gun at Rosenbaum for some reason, he said, stop or I'll shoot you or whatever. And then the guy says, fuck you, and starts chasing him instead of stopping. And then Kyle runs away because he doesn't want to take this guy's life. You still think that that Rosenbaum is justified in chasing him down at that
So
point?
you saying he doesn't want to take this guy's life and that's why it happened? That's you characterizing the situation based. Yeah, it's a hypothetical, not knowing. But yeah, I would, in your hypothetical, if you're running away from someone rather than accelerating the violence, then yes, you are trying to de-escalate a situation. We don't know if that's what happened there, though, right?
Well,
this is a hypothetical.
But why would he be running away from him if not to de-escalate? What other reason would there be?
The answer to that is infinity. There's an infinity
of
reasons.
Give me an example, because I can't think of one.
An example, had Kyle previously tried to endanger him or his friends' lives, had Kyle shown up there and pointed the gun at them and said, hey, you smash those cars, like, get on the ground, had Kyle been LARPing as a police officer like he had been doing basically.
Yeah, and then when you run away, you're de-escalating. We're talking specifically about the act of running away.
So you've skirted past the scenarios and the answers in which, yeah, there's a lot of different reasons why that would have happened.
Because the first hypothetical was, I said Kyle points the gun at Rosenbaum, hypothetically, okay? And then Rosenbaum, instead of stopping or instead of listening to whatever Kyle says, he starts chasing after Kyle. Kyle then flees, okay, because he's running away because he doesn't want to shoot the guy. How is that not a de-escalation? He's running away.
You just asked me. You asked me this exact question, maybe 2 minutes ago.
But then
I gave you an answer. And
when I asked you to provide an example, you kept saying, "Well, what if he told the friends before the incident to do X?" And
I'm saying there's an infinite amount of reasons why they could have been having a confrontation beforehand. There's an infinite amount of reasons why. We don't know. So why even waste time on this kind of line of conversation?
So what you're saying is that you're saying that if someone starts a situation, hypothetically, they start a situation and then they try to run away, it doesn't matter. Once you start the situation, you just forego your self-defense rights?
What did you do before that situation? Of course it matters. That's why there's no such thing as just a cut and dry answer to any of this.
Give me, because I can't think of something
I just gave you multiple examples. And again, what is the point? Because you're give me an example. Here's an example. You're like, okay, well, I guess in that made up example, that means something. Well, again, this doesn't really get us any further to the conversation.
The examples you provided didn't seem to merit it. Because I can't think of an example besides something like, oh, I just poisoned you and I have the antidote and now I'm running away and you're going to die. Yeah. It's got to be something pretty immediate for you to chase the guy down.
That one's good. Let's use that one.
Okay, so do you think
if you're happy
Kyle
with that one,
poisoned Rosenbaum?
I do not. But there you go. Okay. There you go. There's multiple. Like I said, infinity would be the answer to that.
So what would be an example you think reasonable that could have happened in the situation?
We're talking specifically about a point of no return where there's no de-escalation possible. You seem to be making the argument that a scenario can unfold where it's impossible to de-escalate no matter what you do. Even if you turn around and run away, that's not de-escalating the situation. Stich has come up with a great example here. Kyle Rittenhouse has poisoned him with plutonium-7 or something.
Was that the one the Russian guy just got poisoned with?
He's the only one with the antidote. Therefore, you have to chase him. That obviously is pretty farcical, but is there some other potential scenario? I can't think of one either.
In which he had done something? Sure. Did Kyle Rittenhouse threaten him and all his friends? We're like, hey, I'm going to kill you. And then they were like, what? And then one of them started chasing him.
Sure.
So you think if he threatened to kill him and then the guy chased him and then he runs away and the guy's still chasing him, then that's it?
What do you mean that's it?
In that situation, his right to self-defense.
He doesn't forego his right to self-defense. I mean, this is going to be an hour of saying this, right? It again would come down to whether or not the imminence of the threat, the necessity, the proportionality. That's when it comes back down to that. And again, we could just keep giving hypotheticals. Well, what was the reason why? Why was he there? Right? We're just going in circles.
Well, so based on the video. Okay, so if you don't like the hypotheticals, based on the video, we don't know exactly what happened beforehand, except that Kyle put out a dumpster fire or participated in putting out a dumpster fire. And then the next video we see is that he's running away from a person. So based just on the video alone, wouldn't that be self-defense?
So based on the videos as well, have you talked about the fact that when Kyle is being interviewed, I think he's for the Daily Caller, I can't remember exactly, but yeah, in some of that footage, Kyle goes up to a group and there's about, I think 5 or 6 what look like black teenagers, and he asks them, he walks up to them and is like, hey, if you guys need medical attention or anything, can you please come and help me? And one of them says, hey, aren't you that guy who was pointing your gun at me? And immediately when he says that, Kyle walks away. Kyle just turns around and walks away from that conversation. Now, I'm not saying that's evidence of anything. This is just pure conjecture, but that is definitely characterizing it as if that had happened. Had Kyle been pointing his gun at people and saying, hey, I'm defending property, that is a pretty intense act of aggression if that's happening, right? That would I don't know, maybe morally justify some people being like, we have to disarm that man. We have to take that gun away from him.
Yeah, that's a question I wanted to ask. What would he, what would Kyle have to do to justify some stranger trying to take his gun away? And you're saying just pointing it at somebody would be enough.
So he doesn't have the legal ability to own that gun. He's not supposed to be carrying an open weapon at all. And again, like, you know, people don't know that. They could have thought he was 18. They could have thought he was 19. But if he's pointing a gun at people, yeah, is there any bigger form of aggression in terms of like threatening to kill somebody? Like, and are you saying that if anyone then wanted to pull the gun away from him because it's like, wow, this teenager who's pointing a gun at people, he could be dangerous, then is that not morally justified by them to try and disarm him?
Why not call the police? Why
why not call the police?
Well, but once the guy runs
I think we've determined already that the police were kind of in Kyle's camps, right? Do you remember when Kyle was talking to the police, being buddy with them at the end of the entire event? Kyle has his hands up and he's like, "Hey, I just killed 2 people," and they're like, "Walk on by," and then he gets to go back to his own state. Well, he returns to his state where he then turns himself in.
You're proposing that someone perceived an imminent threat of Kyle Rittenhouse using his gun on people and took it upon themselves to apprehend him and take his gun from him. And you think that person is morally justified
in taking the gun from him to try and stop him from killing other people?
Even trying to take the gun from him, you seem to think is morally justified.
Sure. Why not?
Okay.
Why not stop more violence? Why not de-escalate the situation? Isn't that what I thought we all agree? I thought we're all on the same page on this.
Yeah, the guy's running away. He's de-escalating the situation, and you're escalating
calling the police too. Also, is like
but we're getting off on the hypotheticals.
Do you genuinely
pointed a gun? We don't know if he actually pointed a gun.
Yeah,
this is
totally.
all. Because what I originally asked you was based on just the video. We don't see him pointing a gun. We just see a person running away from a guy chasing him.
Do you genuinely
purely on that? Is that self-defense?
On the same scenario, I'd give you the same answer. You keep going around to that same question.
No, I'm saying on just the video.
Just the video. We don't know what happened beforehand. Let's assume nothing happened beforehand.
Is Kyle, based on just the video, is Kyle justified? No.
Why?
Because the person that he is killing, first off, does not have a gun. The person he's killing, based on what we've seen, I can't ascertain whether or not that person posed an imminent threat to killing Kyle. Do I think Kyle is morally justified in defending property that isn't his? No, I don't think he's morally justified in that either.
Do you understand that once a person takes your gun, that they have a gun?
Oh, and then your idea is that they're going to take his gun and then use it against him. So
That's the whole reason why he shot him.
That's the reason why he shot him. Well, we don't know the reason why we shot him. That's your reason why you think he shot him.
Well, they say that he was the Rosenbaum was trying to take the gun away from him. That's.
So wait a minute. So your criteria for based on the video alone of why he's not justified is because he couldn't mind read Rosenbaum and know his intentions, and because he was defending private property that wasn't his.
He didn't know his intentions. Yeah, I'd say that's probably a fair characterization.
But this feels like it's not you've. But so if it was his property, but he didn't know Rosenbaum's intentions, would he be justified in shooting Rosenbaum?
Again, depends on whether or not Rosenbaum is posing an imminent threat to his life, not his property.
It's the video. It's what we see in the video.
Yeah, I would give you the exact same answer.
So
I mean, you're really hyper focusing on this one scenario.
Well, no, because we're trying
I've told you from
right,
but I've told you from the get-go that I don't think he was justified. I don't think he's morally justified in that.
Yeah, but we're trying to figure out why. Right, we're trying to isolate the variables because it seems like the most base variable right here that you've given us is that if you don't know the person attacking you, if you don't know with 100% certainty that they're going to kill you, then you're not justified to.
Well, you've added a new layer to it because now you've added the fact that if he took his gun away, he's immediately going to use that gun to shoot.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying all we know is the video.
Right.
Okay. And all Kyle knows is there's a guy chasing him. And it sounds like you're saying he's not justified because he doesn't know Rosenbaum's intentions.
He also doesn't like the proportionality of killing an unarmed person does not meet the requirements, I would say, to be morally justified.
Well, the only reason I bring up the gun is because you keep saying Rosenbaum is unarmed, but as soon as he takes his gun away, Rosenbaum
becomes armed.
Right.
But that never happened, so you can't even bring that up, right?
Well, but that's the potential.
That's the potential, but you don't know that. That's
okay.
again.
So
if someone is grabbing your gun, you think they have the intention of taking your gun from you. I mean, that's.
So if wait,
okay, hold on, but no, we're not playing a video game here, gentlemen, right? It's not as soon as you get the shotgun and all of a sudden it's like upgrade, and then I'm going to shoot everyone, right? Some people do disarm people to disarm people. That does happen.
So if Rosenbaum's chasing him, grabs the gun out of his hand, so now he has a gun, and he's pointing it at Kyle. Is Kyle then allowed to pull out a second gun and shoot him? Because now it's proportional. Like, I don't understand the.
And then when does it end? And then does he pull out a second gun and then he's got a squirrel with a knife? Like,
what ends presumably when Kyle shoots him and he dies. So.
Right. Well, presumably, unless he got that gun and then he had an even smaller gun inside of his dick, and then he pulled that out. Who knows, right? We'll never know.
Proportionality, right?
Mm-hmm. You're not answering the question, but I'm assuming the answer would be yes. It would be cool if Kyle Rittenhouse pulled out a second gun and shot him. Then it would be cool.
Why are you using the word cool?
Well, morally justified.
That's cool.
It would be cool.
Murder is cool, bro.
It would be a cool action movie scene, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, in that instance, if you're about to be killed, is there an imminent threat? Is it going to be proportional?
He doesn't know he's about to be killed. He just knows the guy took his gun.
Right. Because again, there's the squirrel with the gun, and yeah. We're so lost in the weeds here. I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
We're not lost in the weeds.
Oh, we're not. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't realize this was a rational conversation.
Let's make Kyle Rittenhouse pull out a katana. Okay,
right? Sure.
And he decapitates him. Is he morally justified? I say yes.
We're focused on whether, because it sounds like your primary point, which with Destiny, I thought your primary point was you're never allowed to kill someone over property, but now it seems like you've changed that to your primary point is you're not allowed to kill someone unless you know with 100% certainty that they're going to try and kill you.
Well, I mean, your version of me has changed. What I tried to do with this, because I didn't know that we'd be speaking just about this one moral framework for the past hour. I thought we were going to be talking about like some other stuff surrounding the situation. That's why I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go.
Move on. We can move on. It seems like I feel like I haven't gotten like a really solid answer on this question.
I do not think that you're morally justified in killing people over possessions unless that person is about to kill you as a person. Then yes, you can engage in an act of self-defense if that person is about to immediately damage you. Otherwise, no.
What if the possession is a time machine?
No. Wait, and you don't think that applies to Kyle because he didn't know if Rosenbaum was going to kill him?
He didn't. Well, yeah, none of us do.
Sure, but so you're saying if you're in that situation, you have a gun, some guy's chasing you, maybe you saw the guy.
Okay, so what you're doing is called begging the question, and that's one of the reasons that we're going in circles on this, right? Like, I'm asking I can keep giving you a very straightforward answer to it, and we'll probably get down to like it's not as interesting to you, I guess, if I'm not just like Kyle was good, Kyle was bad, right? Like,
well, no, it's not a question of being good or bad. It
is. We're doing more. That's exactly what moral judgments are. In essence,
it feels like you're being very evasive with not wanting to give like a straight, solid, like this is my foundation right here. And yes, Kyle was not justified because he didn't know Rosenbaum's intention.
That was the whole point in starting this with giving you the foundation. That's why I ground my moral axioms, because I was hoping that we wouldn't be going in circles on this. And again, it's a standard test that we'd have to apply to each scenario. And I'll even give you this, that yes, in the heat of the moment, is he thinking about any of these things? No, God, no. It's utter chaos.
Right. So you're okay. So you're saying in the heat of the moment, you're not giving yourself the moral right to kill someone who's attacked.
No, I'm of course, but I'm saying we have the pleasure of being on the internet right now, where we can talk about this, where we can now pass moral judgments. That's the whole point of this.
We still can't know the intentions of Rosenbaum.
Right, but
of course
not.
But
even if Rosenbaum only intended to disarm him and Kyle doesn't know that doesn't suddenly change Kyle's moral justification of whether, or shouldn't, maybe for you it does, but it shouldn't change Kyle's whether he's morally justified or not in killing Rosenbaum.
And yeah, for me, the moral justification would again come down to those 3 points. And yes, maybe it's something that we'd have to talk about once the smoke settles. But yes, in my opinion, it would not meet those qualifications.
Okay.
What did you want to move on? What were you curious about moving on to?
I wanted to ask a little bit about the fact that, like, it seems, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but the center to right media is really hyper focused on the morality judgment, and we're not really talking about things like critical race theory or systemic oppression or historical oppression. And I know maybe that's not something that you want to go down into the weeds too much with when it comes down to like critical race theory, but
do you support critical race theory?
Do I support it? Yeah.
Do you believe it? So you don't think that racism
do I believe it's real?
You don't think that racism can be solved through liberalism and democracy?
As in that's going to solve racism altogether?
No, I'm saying you don't think that a liberal democratic government and society can solve the issues of racism?
On its own? No, of course not. So far it hasn't.
On its own? I mean,
we've had quite a bit of time.
Let's define racism or systemic racism first, because that's going to be important.
Well, okay.
So yeah, when I say critical race theory, do you guys reference it into like I've seen Charlie Kirk's take on critical race theory, and it was kind of out there.
I mean, I'm referencing in terms of reading what Derek Bell has said, so I'm not sure what Charlie Kirk's take on it is.
Yeah, don't trigger Stich. He doesn't like Charlie Kirk.
I don't like Charlie Kirk.
Why don't you like Charlie Kirk?
Because he's a partisan hack.
Yeah.
That might be the first thing we agree on, generally.
I'm not right wing.
You can do the same.
No, I didn't assume that you are.
You seem like a partisan hack. That's our contention with you.
Oh,
like you motivated reasoning all to hell here.
Shots fired.
Just looking at the facts. Well, prove us wrong. I'm dying to see you prove us wrong.
Well, you wrong. You asked us why we're interested in this topic is because usually when these kinds of situations happen, it's very, the videos are vague enough. There's enough uncertainty that both sides of the narrative can kind of create their own story. They can fill the gaps. But with the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, the reason it fascinates me is that it seems to me and a lot of people that it's so obviously one-sided that to see people turn around and try to concoct a narrative about it is just so fascinating.
Yeah, it is super fascinating. It's amazing.
So it's to you, it's just self-defense, be all end all. That's the start and the end of it.
Yeah, based on all that we've seen. Yes.
You agree with us about the person who is escalating is in the wrong. You agree. You virtually said it here, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to come up with reasons why Kyle Rittenhouse is the aggressor, because you can't change that. That's like a fact of morality.
Got him.
It's true. It's true. So what do you want? Stich, do you want to go into the critical race theory and stuff like that?
Super. I'm just
curious.
I just think it's so interesting because critical race theory is so anti-liberalism and democracy. I mean, I don't know if you're against liberalism and democracy, but
I love democracy, gentlemen. I'm all for it. Let freedom reign.
Yes.
I'm definitely for it. There's no memes there. I love some democracy. There's no problem with that whatsoever. I don't think that your quote liberal democracy has solved the problems of racism or is working towards ultimately ending the problems of racism. I think the problem with systemic racism in the United States is that things are getting decidedly worse, especially for the Black population. I mean, how do you measure like median wealth or just like accrued wealth of like a demographic?
So if not through liberal democracy, how can we solve it?
You kind of ignore my question. I can move on to yours though, but.
Well, I asked you first and you didn't really answer it. So
you hadn't asked me how do we solve it?
Yeah, I said you agree that liberal democracy can't solve it. And 10 minutes ago, and then you said yes, and I said, well, how? And then we kind of moved on to another subject.
How do we solve racism? Is that the question?
If not through using a liberal democracy, okay, what form of government should we have to fix?
Why does it have to be forms of government? Okay, so anyways, that's
what critical race theory is literally about. It's about the legal structure.
No, it's
about the form of government.
No,
it's created by lawyers in the 80s.
It was.
Why are you laughing?
It was created by Derek Bell, who was a professor, I believe, at New York University.
He was a legal professor.
He was a legal professor, yes, but that wasn't as if lawyers were creating critical race theory.
Okay,
he was an academic.
I retract the statement if that's how you're going to characterize it. I understand.
Well, no, that's just what happened. But either
Bell,
way, yeah,
American lawyer according to Wikipedia. But okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, writing as an academic on this forefront, not writing as like he's not publishing this within like the legal scholars.
Why do you want to talk about tell me why you want to talk.
Wait a
critical
minute.
race
Wait a
theory.
minute. So
why would I want to bring any of this up? Because I think this is really pertinent to the situation, especially when it comes to this. When it comes to like the protesters versus the riots, like ultimately on both sides of the aisle, I'm guessing you probably want like riots to stop, as do I, right? Like I don't want, you know, people's homes or property or stuff like that to be burning to the ground. I don't like the chaos in the streets, stuff like that. I think that's ultimately what we're both trying to achieve, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So if at the end of the day, why don't we look at like the causality first off of what's causing these problems, why people are feeling the need, what is the provoking measure that starts and ignites every single Black Lives Matter protest that's been happening around the United States? It's usually because of the cops killing a member of the Black community, and it's also because there's a huge disproportionate amount of equality between these groups, and it's exacerbating it to the point where you will get protests in the streets. The protesters, by the way, by large part, are nonviolent. In fact, if you look at the statistics, I think 93% of all of these protests have been nonviolent in nature, and that's talking about hundreds of thousands of people. Like, that's a really, really large encompassing amount of people to have achieved that. I'm sorry, I'm going to try not to gish gallop here. I want to pull it back to being able to answer some of these questions. But
disparity in wealth, Stich, you want to?
What was the question? I don't remember. It was too long ago.
Well, he's basically saying that the protests in the streets are a result of disparity in wealth. Well, he's making two arguments. He's saying that the disparity in wealth is driving it, and the spark is the unjustified. Well, you can argue whether or not it's justified.
I would imagine disparity in wealth has been driving this. I'd imagine COVID is driving this. I mean, look, I'm the guy who's the big proponent that all of our political problems right now are the genesis of this is the housing crash. So sure, I'm sure all these multiple things have drive people to be very angry and protest in the street.
How do we fix disparity in wealth?
How do we fix disparity in wealth? Well, there's one thing that I think we haven't done in the United States, and again, I'm just coming at this as a guy from a made-up country. But when it comes
true,
we finally agree.
When it comes down to something, though, there has not been reparations in the U.S., to my understanding, right? There has not really been
We have a Canadian here arguing for
reparations. I know.
We have a Canadian that wants my tax dollars to go to reparations.
Yes, absolutely.
Look at the presumptuousness of this.
I know.
Right
hey,
here.
I want the same thing in Canada towards the indigenous population. I want the exact same thing.
I want
Canada to spend their money on puppy dogs, okay?
Maybe. Look, both me and Adam are in favor
more than
of
happy
UBI,
to do it.
okay? We were on Yang Gang.
I know.
Yeah, totally.
You're both Yang Gangers, both of you?
Yeah.
Was that for anything outside of the UBI?
Oh my God! Listen, this is why I like to talk about critical race theory. The only reason he wants to talk about critical race theory is so he can go on the internet and call people racist. It's so fucking evil. It's so fucking
How
evil.
are you guys such snowflakes? Don't cuck out right now. Come on. Like, you can't get upset just because I'm asking questions.
Wait, I'm so confused. I don't understand what just happened.
You're totally disingenuous about everything. What do you mean you're so confused?
What was the insinuation that just happened?
I didn't make any insinuation whatsoever. I was just asking questions. You're getting very upset by it.
The only reason he wants to talk about critical race theory is so he like this guy has a track record of going on the internet, like doing a debate on race, going to the internet and calling whoever he debates some sort of racist or homophobe or sexist. That's like his total MO, Stich. Like, that's what he wants to do.
Well, I mean, he did do that with Sean.
When did this happen?
He did do that, yeah.
So if I want to have a conversation with you about something related to Kenosha, you're immediately thinking the entire thing is to harvest like clips. Is that it?
Well, you harvested the clips that we did on. We began this stream talking about the clip that you harvested.
Harvested. The harvester is here.
Off our first debate. Yes.
Come on.
Sitch and I have had our media training classes.
This is so bizarre. This is so bizarre.
Incendiary, all right?
Incendiary. If I had a conversation with anyone on the street, I just pulled them on and I was like, hey, can we discuss this thing? If their response to me is like, you're just harvesting me for racist comments, I would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I just want to talk to you about this issue. So are you worried that in the conversation you're going to say something racist? That's on you. That's not on me. But this isn't a gotcha. This isn't a harvesting moment. I'm not like trying to set up the scenario in which you can do this.
Lance, this whole thing began because you made the insinuation that we had some racist intent for being for Andrew Yang.
When did I say that? Citation needed. But please go on.
Please back up the stream.
Back up the stream. I said, did you support Andrew Yang because of the UBI thing?
For
is that racist?
Reason, how is
that? Where does race come into this? This is weird. Why are you inputting this?
Okay, so
other policies he might have. Does he have other policies beyond UBI that you were interested? That's not what I.
That is not remotely what you meant. That is not remotely what you meant. You know what you meant. Everyone in the chat.
All right, fine. All right, let's. Okay,
we all know.
Got him.
The mainstream
Yeah, no, I know.
Narrative
Exposed.
With Andrew Yang. We all know the mainstream counter narrative with Andrew Yang. Okay.
I didn't until now. I didn't know that was a race issue. Like I was curious.
People were saying that.
I was curious. What besides UBI? What besides UBI in his policies? You name it right now. Name it, and then prove.
You're not
prove me the harvester. Prove me the organ harvester right now.
Lance, you're not winning any Academy Awards here. I'm sure you've talked about Andrew Yang on many streams. I'm sure there's probably streams on your channel of you tar and feathering Andrew Yang as a racist. Okay, are you saying that this is the first time you've ever heard Andrew Yang? As
an in-poll? Yeah, weird it would come from your side of the aisle, but yeah, no, this is the first time I've heard it.
Okay, so I understand. The problem is, I guess you're not familiar. There was many articles that was saying that the alt-right supported Andrew Yang and that
for the memes and the 4chan shit and Look, I genuinely had nothing to do with it.
He's magically remembering now.
I genuinely had no ill intent. I was curious if it was for UBI because that's the reason why a lot of people liked Andrew Yang was for the UBI. And fuck, why wouldn't you? $1,000 in your pocket? That sounds great, awesome. But what are the other policies besides that you were interested in?
With UBI, you were asking if there was any other reason for UBI. Now you're saying,
is there another? Like, is there anything else about Andrew Yang?
And the other reason was UBI.
Where the fuck is the race card coming in all this? This is so bizarre. Like, you're saying that I'm some kind of a race card harvester. You're the one changing the conversation. When you say Andrew Yang, UBI, like, my assumption is that you would be like, well, we also like blank. Like, what else about him?
Give me some other policies from Andrew Yang aside from...
Okay, absolutely. How about automation, all right? How about the fact that, truckers, apparently we're going to be losing trucking jobs once automation takes over the trucking industry. So we're going to have to do something very significant, such as taxing the robots, things of that nature. That was an idea brought to the forefront by Andrew Yang. And I like that. And I like that.
Are you Yang Gang?
I liked elements of Andrew Yang. I would have preferred him to Joe Biden by a large margin. I'd like Andrew Yang at least was bringing some of those issues to the forefront. There's things I don't like about Andrew Yang as well. But are you still stuck on this? Like, do you still genuinely believe if I brought up Andrew Yang to get a gotcha out of you? Because that wasn't a viral clip, but I'm guessing now people are probably clipping it because it's kind of an unusual path to have gone down.
What are you talking? Well, I don't. What do you mean? You're the one that brought it up. I didn't bring it up.
I asked, is there another reason why you like Andrew Yang? As in, like, what else about him? Like, what other policies did he have? Not whether or not he's Asian.
He's the only candidate bringing up UBI and automation. So automation is a huge problem.
I like that he wants to reduce student loan. I like that he wants a Medicare overhaul.
That was the answer. That was the answer I was looking for before things got real weird.
Remember when you said income inequality was a big deal? Andrew Yang is the only one talking about dealing with income inequality.
I agree. Those were things I liked about Andrew Yang. That's one of the reasons why I would have preferred him to Joe Biden.
It's a shame that Vosh and others like him went out and called Andrew Yang a racist and shit like that.
Vosh called Andrew Yang a racist? Like, again, citation needed.
I'm sure people can dig it up, but Stich, you want to... Actually, Lance, what do you want to talk about?
I don't know, gentlemen. I think
you had some questions about income inequality. Stich, how do we solve income inequality?
We go back to critical race theory. I mean, that's always fun. I assume you don't support Trump's trying to get critical race theory out of federal funded programs.
Okay, so that was the first time I found out that Trump actually, I didn't even know that was a part of the American, it's a part of job training, right? Or a part of critical job training?
No, what he did was he there's like, if it's a federal government position, they have these racism training and all these things. Mm-hmm. It's not like part of job training that there's going to be some sort of race seminar, but there could be. And they said that they can't have any of these race seminars be based on critical race theory.
But is he using the same, like, do you know what the critical race theory curriculum was? Like, I'm just curious how much that was actually based upon, like, the original works.
No, it wasn't aimed at, like, a specific example of saying, like, oh, these people did a critical race theory. They can't. It was just the ideas of critical race theory are not allowed to be used in.
I mean, I would say that would, yeah, I would say that probably, like, in my opinion, is a negative bad. I would prefer that as being taught as part of any kind of, I don't know if it's in job training or what in the United States, but that was the first time I found out about that. Like, to be honest, once there was a huge right wing, cry out about this, that was the first time I'd actually learned that was being taught. So,
okay, so I guess I kind of curious to go back to the original question was. How do we solve? How does critical race theory pose the answer to solving racism, if it's not through the government and liberal democracy, et cetera, et cetera?
Right. So it talks about how, and when I use white supremacy here, I don't want to get like too deep into this, because when you hear white supremacy, you're probably going to think it's front loaded, as if it's like, someone who thinks that
I mean, it's a very
yeah, of course, totally. So let me say that there's the Webster's dictionary definition, right, which is a white someone who thinks the white race is superior and wants to subjugate the other races. That's the textbook definition of white supremacist. Right. When they bring up white supremacy in critical race theory, it's different. It's about how there are these systems and structures in place that uphold what is categorized as the white race as basically having more power over other groups. Like,
you're a white supremacist by that definition.
Absolutely, all three of us are.
Right.
Yes,
well,
that's what critical race theory. Right. Yes, but by definition, that's what critical race theory stipulates, and that's why when people try to talk about.
I don't agree with the definition, though. But if you agree with the definition, you are definitely a white supremacist.
Right.
Well, there's a difference. We're upholding the structures of white supremacy. Not that you are necessarily a white supremacist, but that is that is how that works. That's the problem, because at the end of the day,
we have one white supremacist here, Stich. What are we going to do?
Oh, the Gotthams. Are you going to talk to me about UBI? Are you going to talk to me about UBI?
Are we going to
I guess I wouldn't be your
white
first
supremacist, Stich. I don't know.
I hope
nobody.
Well, it's okay. I'll use my Jewish privilege to say that
good.
I'm an oppressed minority in the conversation.
So we'll get out of it.
We got him.
But you agree with this definition? Go ahead, Stich. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, obviously, I don't agree with that definition, but I agree that that's critical race theory's definition. Sure.
But do you guys believe in the idea that there is, okay, first off, do you believe that race is a social construct?
What do you mean by that?
That we've invented the concept of race, that we characterize humans based on things like melanin in our skin, where at the end of the day, there's no such thing as races.
So the reason I ask you that is because the definition of social construct is not an agreed upon concept. Like, is the sun a social construct or is it not a social construct?
I would say it's not a social construct.
Okay, so is the difference between the sun and the moon a social construct?
Yes.
Okay. So right. Nice. So then, under that, I agree that yes, obviously human beings decide to group people according to skin color, which is not, that's a social construct on that basis. Sure.
Okay. Good. So based on that, historically, we invented the concept of the white race in order to justify subjugating other races. In essence, subjugating, black people while we were enslaving them. It happened around the time of the North Atlantic slave trade, and that's basically where the literature started coming forth to talk about.
Tell me what books you've read on this. I'm super curious about that. I just recently read the book, "Black Rednecks and White Liberals" by Thomas Sowell, who goes into this a lot. Yeah, I've read "Why Nations Fail," which covers a lot of the history. I've read "Guns, Germs, and Steel," which covers a lot of this history. I've also read
"Guns, Germs, and Steel." That's a great one. Well, let me pull up. Sorry, if it comes to the actual book where we found out that we definitioned it, "The Invention of the White Race" is the actual name of the book itself.
Okay, so it's a lefty thing. It's like it probably dives deep into critical race theory.
I don't know if it's necessarily a lefty thing, right? Like when you said if you want to ask me for a good book on the history of the United States, I would tell you should probably read like Howard Zinn's, for example, like the People's History of the United States. That would be a really good jumping off point. That's what the debate
is over, though. Yes, the debate is over which of those narratives is going to be taught in schools, is going to be the consciousness of America going forward. So I feel
is it going to be taught in schools? I didn't know that was something that was coming forward.
Well, they're trying to. That's why Trump is that's why Trump is against critical race theory, because it's racist.
So explain how critical race theory is racist. I'm curious about that.
Because it's saying that everyone who's white is upholding white supremacy.
They're
using your skin color.
So it's not saying that they're doing it as an intent. They're not doing it with malice. They're doing it like subconsciously in many ways.
What Derek
some people
Bell
are.
says.
Some people do.
Wait. Derek Bell specifically said, and the reason that he thinks liberal democracy can never solve racism is that he believes white people would never vote to help black people unless it helps their own interests. So that is kind of the basis of critical race theory.
Well, no, that's one like is that a direct quote? Probably. I was going to assume.
That was his, that was his whole point of his alien slave trader allegory. That's the most popular one.
Okay, so what do you categorize as white? Maybe define that.
Well, it's not what I categorize. It's how Derek.
No, I know, but I'm asking you. I know, but I'm just asking you as a person.
Someone who has white skin.
And that by definition is, see, when people talk that way in terms of race, that's when it gets complicated, right? Because you wouldn't just say like, I want to represent let's say Irish pride. Like I take a lot of pride in being Irish, but saying that I take a lot of pride in being white would be different, right? You're then giving yourself that classification based on, again, as we already agreed, the socially constructed idea of race.
Yeah, neither of us believe that there's a magical unified white culture. I mean, we've actually argued with many people about this. So yeah, I agree with that. Sure, there's no magical unified white pride, white culture, et cetera, et cetera. So there's American pride, there's American culture.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a good point.
There's Canadian culture, I assume.
No, it's made up. We're not a real country. It's right. It's fake. Yeah,
it's a fantasy culture.
It's a fantasy culture. I've established that. But anyways, back to your original question. When it comes down to what exactly can be done in order to stop upholding these structures, the richest people in the world, when you say like there's a system of white supremacy, yeah, they happen to be white, right? The majority of politicians in the United States, the most powerful country in the world, happen to be white. That's what they're referencing when they're saying that there is a system of white supremacy, and that system bears all the way down throughout hierarchical structures.
Okay, I don't know what this is a point relating to.
Well, you originally asked me.
Oh no, it was relating to Adam said that critical race theory is racist, and you said it's not. And then I said it is because Derek Bell believes X, Y, Z. But I mean, I guess this is the problem I have with a lot of critical race theory and a lot of these kind of, I don't know what to call them, woke grievance studies, is that there's a lot of kind of Mott and Bailey definition game where someone in the field, makes kind of a very strong claim like Derek Bell, and then you say, well, that's racist. And then you say, well, no, it doesn't mean that. It means this other thing that's kind of innocuous. It just means the structures of white supremacy in our society. But that's not what Derek Bell means. That's not what a lot of the writers involved in critical race theory mean.
Well, I was going to say there's a lot of writers. It's like it's a field of study that's been growing for time now.
Right. I don't remember the guy. Who's the guy that wrote the book that everyone cites for critical race theory?
I have a question about the white supremacist definition that you were putting forward with critical race theory.
Sorry, which one? The first one or the second one?
The second one, obviously, that's the one that's contentious, right? The idea that all institutions are based on white supremacy. If you have a majority population that's white and you tear down all of the institutions and you rebuild them, and there are still majority white people building these new institutions, how are they not still white supremacists by the same definition?
So the idea of, like, say, abolishing not just the institutions, but the idea of race itself, the idea behind that being is that we have to get rid of the very classification of people within these racial categories.
I'm all for it, but then we have to dissolve the Congressional Black Caucus, and they're probably going to have a fucking conniption fit over that.
Yeah. Wait. So you're saying it would just be one than the other? Like we're gonna do X, and then right away the Black Caucus gets dissolved.
There's no Congressional White Caucus, and I think that's good. So I mean, if you're here saying I would like to dissolve the idea of race,
yeah, of course,
man, I'm game for that.
Nice. All right, we finally agree on something.
It seems like that's been the project, though.
Wait, can we do gender next, or is that too far?
Well, we could actually, but critical race theory is against that. Critical race theory doesn't want to abolish
the opposite
race.
Of that.
I mean, Derek Bell's thing is ironically called racial realism. He doesn't think it is abolishable.
Racial realism. You'll have to send me a link for that. I haven't read on their theories on gender, but yeah, please.
This is our problem with critical race theory, is that it's fucking racist. It's goddamn racist, and we want to abolish the idea of race. They used to call it a colorblind society, but these days, White Fragility, Robin DiAngelo, they're making the argument that the idea of colorblindness is racist. So it appears that the people who are trying to abolish the concept of race have been called racist.
Right.
Hey, don't all talk at once.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, just that awkward pause.
Okay.
Don't get
Did
triggered.
you want to move on to gender? Talk about gender if you want.
Well, hey, you know what? We've been going for a while, so maybe
you've been super generous with your time. If you got to go, that's cool.
I gotta move on to this next segment. What I say? I just want to know this. Are you for abolishing gender as well? Because maybe there's less to talk about next time.
I'm in favor of people not judging people on the basis of their gender, prejudging people. Sure.
And what about abolishing the concept of gender? Gender. Just out of curiosity.
I think it's a huge mistake.
Again, I don't know what you mean. I don't know how you're defining gender. That's why it's kind of like a complicated question.
The social construct of whether, traditional gender roles. So, the binary, if there's a man and there's a woman.
Right, but I don't agree with the notion that all of gender is a social construct. I agree. I think a lot of it's based on biology and evolution.
Okay. Yeah. Well, right away I was like, okay, this would be another thing to unpack.
That's right.
Maybe for next time.
Maybe for next time.
What is your next segment? Are you streaming like 8 hours a day?
No, I only stream like 4 hours a day. I don't have the wherewithal. I'm going to be talking about Shia LaBeouf and his incredible performance, where he got stoned out of his mind reading something online. I don't know. It sounds fucking hilarious.
Well, I'm going to make a prediction that Lance is going to be on Twitter calling us racists in the next couple of days. So I'm just covering my bases here. It seems like you've done that with a lot of other people.
I'll tell you this. I can already tell you the clips I would release on this. Probably the Andrew Yang one, but not because I'm accusing you of being racist. More just like I was baffled because I've never had that happen before, where I was distinctly trying to ask, what about him as a politician else do you like? And then it suddenly turned into something.
Man, I would love you to prove me wrong. It's just that your prior track record, you have a reputation for doing that. So I would love it if we come back and this doesn't happen and I was totally wrong, and I'm happy to say that I was wrong. I'm all for abolishing the concept of race. I think that's a good idea. I think we should be moving towards a colorblind society, even though that's unfashionable to say now, but those are my values. So Stich, you want to say anything before we end it?
No, I agree. I'm in favor of moving towards a colorblind society. Thanks for talking with us, Serfs. It was a very interesting conversation. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for making me leave the echo chamber. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, come back anytime. You have my contact information, so just reach out.
Sounds good. Bye.
To our God, I'm Wrath. We pray at your altar of greatness. To our monarch, Thomas Bone, you are the light that guides our path. To our lords, Jeffrey Lamb, Trevor R., Stephen, Nine Tails Cosmic Fox, Hans Josephine, and Poppy Nelson, we bow meekly for your pleasure. To our knights of the Round Table, Josh Mickelson, Dylan Byth, Alexander Thaler, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, Todd Lajeunesse, Clement Chetska, Skybear Games, Moss Beast, Political Puppy, Ali Menthol, Jimmy Bignuts, Alan R., Andreas Chitoro, Good Poon Hates Cops, That's Solid Poon Then, Dr. Zayas, Joppy, Radiclu, Violent Orchard, and Sophie Baby, we salute you. And to our many merchants and farmers, thank you.